Now, let's also talk to another person who has tried to make it through this scenario, and not just one when it came to drought and bushfires, but more so the coronavirus and also all of the business issues that are in and around that. I know that he's a big fan of the show and a very big fan of Australian manufacturing. He's a man who works with our dear friends at Harvey Norman so well. Of course, Simon Dyer is the Sealy Australia Managing Director. These are the people who want you to back Aussie-made mattresses. They are made here. They are more often than not made in your major capital cities, not just one factory, your major capital cities. I had a chance to talk to him in Queensland. The power of Australian made. I think this is going to be a huge factor in Australia's rebuild. I think that Australians are ready to support Australian made products. How important to you is it that your product that's so famous to so many people is made in Australia? And do you think that that's going to start to mean more to the consumer in the future?
Well, it's the essence of our business model. We make locally here, but we make locally right throughout the region. So being made locally, so in this case in Australia, is extremely important to us. But it's important to us in every country in which we operate. And look, there's a special reason for that in our industry, and that is that, that customers like choice, you know, different dimensions, different styles, different price points, different fields, and they like products quickly. And the best way to deliver on that is to make locally. So I don't think that's been the case for a long time, and I don't think that's going to change. I mean, will Australian made become more important? I hope so. I mean, we are making here, and we don't plan to do anything different. And if something that comes out of this pandemic is an increased preference towards things that are made locally, well, I think that would be just terrific.
It's this thing where you have to be careful about, as a consumer, the message you send when you spend, right? So you can shop on price, which is fine, but that means that you probably are going to be buying a lot of stuff that might be poorly made, might be made somewhere else. You might spend that little bit more, but what you're doing is that you're investing in the ecosystem that is Australia. Now, obviously, you don't want Australian made just to be a sticker and then, 10, 20% more expensive than everything else. So as a business, how do you make sure that the Australian made product is great but is competitive on price?
Well, that does require effort. I mean, that's the magic. That's the X factor that you need in your sort of manufacturing business. Part of it's cost. I mean, part of it's cost management. So you think carefully about all of the cost inputs in your business. Part of it's the service that you offer. I mean, you can't just compare two items, alone on the material content of them. If one can be delivered within, 48 hours and one takes 8 weeks to get there, then that's a relevant factor. But, it just requires, careful, thoughtful management of all of the elements that go into manufacturing. And so that's something that we spend a lot of time on, trying to be the very best manufacturer that we can. And, it's a bit cliche, but it's a process of continuous improvement. You do a little bit better and a little bit different every single day. You try to be as inclusive with the entire team that is part of our company about what we're trying to achieve. And so everybody's trying to do that little bit better, continuously improve every day. And if you're determined and focused, and there are some elements of our industry that lend themselves to local manufacturing, if all of those things are in play, you can compete.
Now, you've got workers all over the country in manufacturing, sales, all the rest of it here. I want to talk about regional Australia and about regional workers, whether there's anything special about inspiring them or there's anything special about their work ethic. How important for you is it that your business is very much part of all parts of Australia, from the busiest city to the smallest town?
Well, I'm an Australian, I'm a patriot. I mean, I love that about us. Look, we have a lot of people that commit a great, deal of their lives to this company. I'm incredibly mindful of that and thankful for it. And so, you know, we're a community. We employ more than 600 people. More than 100 of those people have worked here more than 20 years. I think more than 30 or 40 have worked here more than 30 years. And so, you know, all of those people are very important for us, and I know that our company is an important part of their lives. That idea of being relevant to people all over the country is something that I believe we understand and we care a great deal about. But I think that's part of who and what we are. It's sort of what makes us us.
Well, Simon, I just want to thank you on the behalf of those communities, on behalf of those 600 workers that you've got here and many more on top of that around the world, about that commitment, about that patriotism, about that love of country. And just the final question I wanted to ask you here, and thanks for the time tonight, is what's your hope for this joint in the next 12 months? I'm a hope over fear kind of guy. I'm always back the home team, but what's your hope? What's your advice? What's some of the goals that you hope that as a people, as a country, we can hit in the next little while?
Well, I can't give our country goals. I'm just, that's impossible. But I can only give goals for our company, for Sealy. And look,
the Sealy Nation,
we're
okay.
a small, the Sealy Nation, the Sealy family. We're a small Brisbane-based company that is slowly growing right around the world. We're in India to the west, Korea in the east, China in the north, New Zealand in the south. And we just want to keep growing. We think there's still 2/3 of the world that we can tackle, and we'll just keep pushing as far as we can go.
He's a good bloke, loves his country, wonderful company, Sealy Mattresses. Of course, you can get them in Harvey Norman stores and Harvey Norman back. So many great Australian businesses. They form partnerships with people like Sealy, and think about it, because it's part of our duty now about the types of things that we buy. Where did it come from? If it comes from Australia, well, think very long and hard about buying it, because you take care of, well, desperately, whole areas that need to be dug out at the moment, from regional centres to the fringes of town. And that's what we're all about here. Remember, hope over fear. Always great to have a chat to him. And once again, thanks to our dear friends at Harvey Norman.